Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deputy Attorney General Monaco, I want to join the chorus of my colleagues here thanking you for joining us today to discuss efforts to hold Russian war criminals and kleptocrats accountable during this unlawful invasion of Ukraine. I certainly appreciate your work and the work of the department and look forward to assisting in any way possible to ensure that Ukrainian victims of war receive the justice they deserve. Now, I understand the klepto capture task force was brought up earlier in the hearing. I understand that it's responsible for assisting the enforcement of sanctions, export restrictions, and economic countermeasures that the U.S. imposed in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In February, the task force unsealed 2 cases charging various crimes involving counterintelligence operations and violations of U.S. export laws. Can you describe how the creation of the task force has improved the administration's abilities to enforce sanctions against Russia and hold bad actors accountable?
Well, the task force klepto capture, first of all, I appreciate the kind words for the leadership of the Justice Department, but it's the men and women who are doing the investigating and the prosecuting who really deserve the kudos. They have been working flat out since the brutal invasion over a year ago. In fact, within 9 days of that invasion, we stood up task force klepto capture, bringing together expertise from across the department and indeed across the federal government, including the intelligence community. And this is something I've seen that I think is really a game changer. Now I get in my morning intelligence briefing information from the intelligence community about where some of these Russian oligarch assets are. And that information is fed to the task force so they're able to go after it. So it has really changed our orientation and how we're doing this type of work. They have been unrelenting, but again, I will say we're leaving some money on the table. We want to expand our ability to go after and seize and forfeit specifically the proceeds from export control violations, for instance, that could go to the benefit of the Ukrainian people.
Great. Now, in a hearing here last year, Director Adams spoke to the long-term goal of prosecuting those who provide aid to sanctioned entities like Russia seeking to evade accountability. Can you give us an overview of how the task force will carry out this effort and describe how the task force collaborates with foreign allies in reaching its goals?
Sure. So task force, first, as you point out, we've been going after the oligarchs and their assets, but importantly, we're also going after their enablers, the accountants, the vendors, the lawyers, the folks who are helping them hide, the oligarchs that is, helping the oligarchs hide their assets, under very Byzantine financial structures and to find any dark corner of the financial system. So for that, we need to work with our international allies. So we have joined forces with our European and other allies in something called the REPO task force. There's a lot that goes into the naming of these task forces. The Russian elites, proxies, and oligarchs task force, that brings together all of the work and the expertise from our international partners who are vital to us being able to seize those private jets that Senator Graham mentioned, to seize and forfeit those luxury properties that we're going after. In every one of these cases, we need and have gained vital international cooperation.
Okay. Is there any additional support you need from the committee or from Congress to address any issues you have with any data collection or enforcement?
Well, thank you for that offer to make my pitch again for ensuring that we expand our ability to forfeit. So right now, we are seizing assets of named oligarchs, and if they are pursuant to the particular executive order that this Congress passed an authority for us to forfeit those assets into the benefit of the Ukraine, that's terrific. But right now, the assets that we seize and forfeit as a result of, for instance, export control violations, we can't transfer those proceeds to the benefit of Ukraine, and we'd really appreciate the broadened authority for us to be able to, again, make these oligarchs pay for the rebuilding of Ukraine.
Great. And in my time remaining, just one last question. A recent ICC report found that Russia has committed war crimes and human rights violations, something that we've all recognized for some time now, including attacks on civilians and energy-related infrastructure, willful killings, unlawful confinement, torture, sexual violence, unlawful deportations of children. We've heard this from several members of the committee. Now, following the report, the ICC issued arrest warrants for the Russian president and the Russian Commissioner for Children's Rights for these abuses. Can you just spend a minute talking about the significance associated with this being the first time a global court has issued a warrant against a leader who's also a member of the UN Security Council?
Well, it's obviously a very significant step, and it's certainly one that is justified based on all of the recounting that you have done and other members of the committee have recounted the atrocities being perpetrated in Ukraine by Russia. So it is both justified and, I agree, a significant step.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.